Over 2 million investors defrauded, $4.3 billion in assets seized, 17 elites in handcuffs, including titled tycoons. The money wasn't just stolen, it was laundered into luxury towers, state land, and local politics. Even Penang's proudest developments may now be crime scenes. This isn't just about one scam. It's about what slipped through the cracks. Why did it take China's intelligence services to expose a fraud in Malaysia's own backyard? Is this the cleansing Malaysia needed, or a warning that the rot goes deeper than anyone dared admit? Today we dive into the biggest financial takedown since 1MDB, and what it reveals about power, money, and trust in Southeast Asia.
Okay, let's jump right in. We're looking at Penang, Malaysia today, and this situation with the MBI International Group, it's quite something. A massive alleged Ponzi scheme, billions involved, and this unprecedented joint crackdown between Malaysia and China.
Absolutely unprecedented, and the scale is just staggering. We're talking about MBI International allegedly duping over 2 million investors. 2 million.
Mostly Chinese nationals, wasn't it?
The vast majority, yes.
Yeah.
And the losses estimates are over 55 billion yuan. That's what, roughly $7.5 billion US dollars?
Mm-hmm.
Or RM 32.4 billion Malaysian ringgit.
Mm-hmm.
It just dwarfs previous scams in Penang, like, JJ Poor to Rich or Rich Way. Those were big locally.
Mm-hmm.
But this MBI thing was in a completely different league.
Right. And at the center, you've got this figure, Tedy Teow, 59 years old. The media in China apparently called him Asia's godfather of pyramid schemes. Some even said Jolo, too.
Which tells you everything about the public perception, right?
Right.
Linking him to 1MDB levels of notoriety.
But here's the thing that gets me. This wasn't his first rodeo, was it? He had that Island Red Cafe scheme back in 2011. Collapsed. He pleaded guilty.
He did. Cheating, misleading investors, the whole lot.
And the penalty. A day in jail. 1 day. And a RM 160,000 fine for allegedly taking over 1 million ringgit then. It just seems inadequate.
Inadequate is putting it mildly. And that really raises the first big red flag, doesn't it? How does someone with that kind of conviction, basically for the same type of scheme, just turn around and launch something exponentially bigger across borders?
It points to a serious weakness somewhere. Oversight, accountability.
Definitely. It feels like the system failed to see the warning signs or maybe just didn't take them seriously enough, and that allowed MBI to fester. The scheme itself was, classic Ponzi at its core. Promise high returns, pay old investors with new money.
But with a modern twist, this MFC platform and the M-coin.
Exactly. The M-coin was key. It wasn't just a number on a screen. They made it tangible. It allegedly offered these crazy returns, but you could also spend it at MBI outlets.
I read about that scene at Penang Times Square, the M Mall. Bus loads of Chinese tourists coming off cruise ships.
Yeah, using M-coin to buy phones, handbags, cosmetics. It created this powerful illusion of a real thriving economy. Very clever psychologically.
Made it harder for people to see it was built on sand?
Absolutely. If you can physically use your investment to buy goods, it feels legitimate, doesn't it? But now, Penang Times Square is apparently a ghost town. Struggling since 2016, collapsed with COVID. A physical wreck mirroring the financial one.
And this wasn't just contained to Malaysia and China initially, right? It spread.
Oh, yes. Started in 2012, and by 2016, they were in Taiwan, Japan, even New Zealand. But the core focus, the big money, was always mainland China, which inevitably turned it into this major bilateral headache.
So this massive thing, RM 32 billion allegedly gone. It couldn't stay hidden. Which brings us to Op Northern Star. How did the house of cards actually start to fall?
Well, the first real wobble was mid-2017. Bank Negara, Malaysia's central bank, raided MBI offices. They seized some cash, RM 688,000, some luxury cars, froze some accounts.
But you said the total alleged embezzlement was RM 30 billion then. 600,000 ringgit is, well, it's basically nothing, a drop in the ocean.
Precisely. And that's what caused so much anger, especially among the Chinese investors. Then the next year, Teow and his son, they got fined again. RM 20 million this time for money laundering.
20 million against 30 billion still seems disproportionate.
It absolutely infuriated the victims. And Teow, he just kept going. Apparently moving between Penang and southern Thailand, Danok specifically, MBI still had significant operations there.
So the initial actions didn't really deter him?
Not effectively, no. Which led to that rather embarrassing protest in 2019 with Chinese nationals outside their embassy in KL demanding Malaysia do something. Relations between Mahathir's government and Beijing were already a bit frosty then anyway.
Okay, so the diplomatic pressure builds. Then Beijing steps it up.
Big time. Late 2020, they issue an Interpol red notice for Teow. Still, nothing much happens until July 2022. He gets arrested in Thailand.
But for something else. An online casino.
Yeah, ironically. But that arrest sparked this quiet tussle between Beijing and KL over who got him. Malaysia wanted him, but China pushed harder.
And China won.
They did. August 2024, Thailand extradites him to China. Apparently, he was the first Operation Fox Hunt target extradited from Thailand in 25 years. It's huge.
Operation Fox Hunt, that's China's big push to bring back financial fugitives, right?
Exactly. And once Teow was in China, well, you can imagine the debriefing. The detailed information he reportedly provided on MBI structure, the money laundering in Malaysia that seems to be what really fueled Op Northern Star.
So it became this formal, months-long joint operation, Malaysia's home ministry, China's public security ministry.
And had top-level blessing.
Yeah.
Malaysia's home minister confirmed it was discussed during Xi Jinping's visit in April. President Xi was apparently very pleased with Malaysia's efforts. It shows how seriously China views these scams targeting their citizens now.
It's a massive shift, this level of cooperation on financial crime. Intelligence sharing, coordinated arrests.
It really is quite significant, which raises the question, is this the new template for tackling these huge transnational frauds? Or is this MBI case just so big with so many Chinese victims that it forced an exceptional response?
We'll have to see. But the results are already rolling in. 17 Malaysians detained so far. More expected.
Yes, and asset seizures, too. The police haven't named names officially, but officials in the media are pointing fingers at some very, very prominent figures in Penang.
Including 3 Tan Sris. That's a huge deal in Malaysia. People awarded that title by the king.
It is. We're talking about Tan Sri Alex Ooi, the condo king of Penang, founder of Ideal Property. They seized his Rolls-Royce, a Raptor pickup.
Right. And Tan Sri Tan Keen, soon from T7 Global, allegedly involved in some side scam trying to fix the main investigation.
That's the report, yeah. RM 10 million quat. And then there's Tan Sri Kor Eng Chuen of ECK Development, apparently a direct business associate of Teow, linked to that Kulim Airport project controversy too, and a previous Macau scam property deal.
That suggests a network, a well-connected one.
Deeply intertwined, it seems. And the asset recovery numbers are just vast. RM 3.8 billion recently, plus an earlier $500 million or so. Totals around RM 4.3 billion recovered, nearly $1 billion US, and nearly 1,000 bank accounts frozen.
Okay, so the money didn't just vanish. It seems it flowed into Penang's economy, especially real estate.
That's the police theory. Large amounts salted away into property development, apparently through doubtful business transactions, like giving big advances to developers who couldn't get bank loans.
A shadow financing system almost, using illicit funds.
And potentially funding purchases of state government land for major projects. That's a huge allegation. Investigators are looking closely at that reclaimed land development near Pulau Jerajak, for example.
So developers are going to have to prove where their money came from.
That's what the Home Ministry official said. Source of funds for wealth, properties, project financing. It puts the onus on them.
Which raises that awkward question. If this money was flowing so freely, how much due diligence was actually happening? Or was it, convenient to look the other way for the sake of growth?
That's the systemic issue, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
When billions are potentially sloshing around seeking a home, especially in a booming market, are the checks and balances robust enough? Or does the lure of rapid development override caution? It's a global challenge, really, not just Malaysia.
And it wasn't just property. Laundered into other ventures, manipulating penny stocks on the local exchange.
That's part of the picture, too, yes. Using the funds to distort market prices. It paints a picture of really pervasive contamination.
You can see why it's rattled the establishment in Penang, especially that quote from the lawyer. 1 out of 5 businessmen and professionals here inadvertently involved. That's chilling.
It is. And it explains the silence, the reluctance to talk. If the entanglement is that widespread, nobody wants to draw attention. And politically, huge potential fallout for the DAP, the dominant party there.
Because they've championed Penang's economic success.
Exactly. As that former DIP politician said, they boasted about the robust property market. If it turns out that robustness was partly fueled by illegal money, that's a massive problem for their credibility and raises serious governance questions.
And some of these figures, like Alex Ooi, they have histories, right? You mentioned links to that MACC investigation involving Lim Guan Eng, the former chief minister.
Yes, the Koperasi Tunis Muda bribery case from 2021. It suggests a pattern, perhaps. And Oi's company, Ideal Property, is also involved in the Penang LRT project, a huge RM8 billion contract.
Through the SRS consortium. And the federal government kept that consortium on even after taking over the project.
They did, through direct negotiation, citing the need to avoid legal issues from cancellation. But it certainly looks very interconnected, doesn't it? Major business, politics, infrastructure, and now these allegations of illicit finance swirling around.
It really presents two faces. On one side, you see this decisive crackdown, international cooperation, holding powerful people accountable, a cleansing maybe?
That's the bull case, certainly. Restoring trust, showing commitment to rule of law. Long-term, a cleaner environment should attract better investment. And the cooperation with China is a definite plus on the diplomatic front.
Plus the deterrent effect. Nailing transferesis sends a message, right? Nobody's untouchable, and recovering over RM4 billion isn't insignificant either. Protects the financial system, maybe compensates victims down the line.
All valid points. But then there's the bear case. What's the immediate impact on Penang's economy? If major projects stall, if developers face a credit crunch because this shadow financing dries up, you could see a real slowdown, job losses.
And the reputational hit. Politically, how does the state government explain how this happened on their watch? It suggests a failure of governance, potentially quite deep.
That's the core of the bear case. How deep does the rot go? The fact that it took China's intervention and Teow's intelligence to really break this open suggests Malaysia's own systems missed it or couldn't cope. That makes cautious global investors nervous.
And untangling this legally, years of court cases, no guarantee victims get everything back. Plus, relying on foreign help for domestic crime, it raises sovereignty questions too.
Absolutely. It's messy. Which leaves us with that fundamental tension.
Is this Malaysia bravely cleaning house? Or is it a reactive cleanup forced by external pressure after a massive internal failure?
And that's the billion-dollar question for confidence, isn't it?
Yeah.
Can investors trust the system's actually fixed now? Or just that this one huge problem is being dealt with? Malaysia has to prove this is a turning point towards genuine transparency and robustness.
Otherwise, the risk is being seen as a place where these things can happen and only get fixed belatedly.
Exactly. It's a crucial moment for perception.
It's been quite the deep dive. From a single scheme to implications for an entire regional economy and its political landscape, shows how interconnected everything is.
And how devastating these frauds can be, not just financially, but socially. It also highlights this absolute necessity for international cooperation now. These criminals operate globally. Law enforcement has to as well.
And for you listening, it's a reminder, isn't it? Illicit money can hide in plain sight, in booming property markets, in complex financial products. Vigilance is key.
So the final thought to leave you with, beyond just catching the Tedy Teows of the world, what does it really take to cleanse a system of this kind of deeply embedded financial wrongdoing? And how do we all get better at spotting those red flags, those promises that are just too good to be true before it's too late? Something to think about.